National Public Interest Law Center. We provide free legal and technical assistance to governments across the country. As I discussed in the memo that I wrote, there is obvious authority for a city to regulate dealers. It's in the California Constitution, it's in the California Penal Code, and it's been upheld by the courts. In the Lafayette case, where the Court of Appeals upheld Lafayette's dealer ordinance, the court said dealer ordinances are well within the police powers granted to municipalities. Since that case, the Supreme Court of the United States has decided 2 cases on the Second Amendment. In both of those cases, the court said that there's a right, the Second Amendment guarantees a right to a handgun in your home for self-defense. The court also said that it is consistent with the Second Amendment to regulate commercial activity relating to firearms. So clearly the Second Amendment is no obstacle to this type of an ordinance. This is a very common approach. Contra Costa County itself has an ordinance like this. It does not apply in Pleasant Hill. Lafayette has this ordinance, Antioch, Richmond, San Pablo, Marin County, Los Angeles County, 28 other cities have this ordinance. It is a very minor imposition to a firearms dealer, and it is a very common way to protect the community. Pleasant Hill requires a land use permit for a lot of other types of businesses, such as animal boarding business, artist studios, auto maintenance, building materials, you know this, funeral services, so this is not something that Pleasant Hill hasn't already done. The reason it's important to do it in the case of firearms dealers, even though most firearms dealers are responsible and are good business people, not all of them are, and we are trying to be proactive and look forward. We don't know who else might come to Pleasant Hill, and because there could be an irresponsible dealer that would come into the city, we want to make sure that the community has a say, or has an input at least into where that would go, and that it wouldn't go into an area where the use already existing in that area is not compatible. Federal and state law does regulate dealers, but it is inadequate. They do not require security during business hours. They do not tell dealers how they should store the weapons. They do not prohibit minors from entering stores. So you have a dealer next to a park or a college, and minors can come into the store, and you have a dealer that's irresponsible, and you're creating a dangerous situation. One irresponsible dealer coming into Pleasant Hill could have a tremendous impact on this city. So I urge you to look forward and be proactive and set up a system so that the public has notice and an input into where dealers are located. And I can answer any questions anybody has.
I have a question. Just for clarification, when you're talking about Contra Costa County and other jurisdictions have ordinances like this, similar ordinances, you're talking about requiring a conditional use permit. Is that correct?
Many of them require a land use permit and when you say conditional use permit, are you referring to like a police permit?
Because no, it would be a land use permit.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Contra Costa has a land use permit. Lafayette requires 2 permits, a land use or conditional permit and a police permit. And Antioch requires a use permit. Richmond and San Pablo require both, the land use and the conditional.
And these are permitted in certain zones in all those jurisdictions. In other words, first you'd need to be in the zone, secondly you'd need a conditional use permit, and perhaps in these jurisdictions that you sort of lump together, and perhaps a police permit.
Exactly.
Okay, just so that everybody understands, that's kind of the range of options here. Thank you.
Chair, I have a question. Sure. Did you, by any chance, advise, consent with, communicate with the committee that drew up this ordinance that presented this to the Pleasant Hill Planning Commission?
Are you talking about the Public Health and Safety Committee?
I'm talking about the committee that presented this ordinance to the Planning Commission.
I don't think so, because I don't know what committee that is.
So you had no communication or advice to the committee that presented this to the Planning Commission of Pleasant Hill?
I'm not clear on what committee you're talking about. What committee is that?
The committee that drafted this ordinance that was presented to the Planning Commission on March, I believe.
Well, I wasn't at that meeting, and no, I guess my answer is
so you
no.
had no communication with the committee that drew up this ordinance?
If I'm understanding your question correctly, I would answer no.
Okay.
Your question's a little confusing to me.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to